You're listening to the Fierce Fatty podcast. I am your host, Victoria Wellsby. Welcome to episode 30, where we're talking about when your partner says they don't find you attractive. Oh, let's do it.
Perfect.
You're listening to the Fierce Fatty podcast. I'm Victoria Wellsby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money, and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty podcast. Let's begin. Hello, fatty. How you doing today? Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you today. I was feeling a bit this morning, and so I decided today would be a good day to record my podcast episode for you because it makes my brain happy. So I was just gonna wallow in unhappiness and because that's sometimes good, but then I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna put some makeup on, I'm gonna curl my hair, and I'm gonna make a podcast episode. So hey, is my accent weird? Do you think my accent's weird? I'm curious. I think it's kind of a little bit weird. I've been watching loads of videos on YouTube of like dialect coaches reviewing when people doing accents in movies and stuff, and showing how this is good and this is bad or whatever, and how they really nail the accent. It's so interesting, and it's something that I find really interesting is the different ways that Canadians and people from the States say things versus Europeans, people from the UK. And I'm in Ireland now, so my accent is 60% British and 40%, no, I'd say 70% British, 20% Canadian, and I've forgotten what that percent left is. 10% Irish, not even 10% Irish. I've been I was in the UK for 20 plus years, in Canada for 10 plus years, and in Ireland for 1 year. So sometimes I'm saying things and people don't understand what I'm saying. So hopefully you can. But just like the other day, I was asking my mum if she had pickles, and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Pickles, She's like, I don't like pickled things. And I'm like, no pickles to put in a burger. And she was like, huh? And I was like, oh, gherkins. Do you have gherkins? And she's like, oh, no, I don't have gherkins. But it was so ingrained in me to say pickles and not gherkins anymore that my mum literally didn't understand what I was saying. But I've got some words here that I want to say to you. And so depending on where you are in the world, you might be like, oh my God, yeah, this is different and weird and funny, that I'm just laugh at being in Canada. I'm just like, no, you're saying it wrong. Or maybe Canadians or people from the States is like, no, you're saying it wrong to Brits. The first thing that I noticed when I got to Canada, people were like, go and find somewhere to live on this website called Craigslist. And I'm like, there, type it in, Greg, Craigslist. But turns out they weren't saying Greg, they were saying Craig. In Canada, I'm just going to say Canada, but, saying, pretty much the United States as well. They say, whoever, depending if you're a Brit or not, they say Craig instead of Craig. Like Greg, but with a C. It's so weird. Craigslist instead of Craigslist. The next one, the name Graham. They don't say Graham, so Graham. There's no H in there. They say Graham, Gram, Graham. Graham crackers instead of Graham. Not that British people know what Graham crackers are, I don't think. I don't think we get Graham crackers in the UK. Anyway, here's another name. Dawn. 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 Canadians say Don. Don. I'm going to in the morning when it's dawn time. No, dawn. There's an A in there and a W, not D-O-N. Here's another one. There's a place in the States, and they say St. Louis, but it's not written Lewis as Brits know it, Lewis. It's spelled Louis, but they pronounce it Lewis. And so Louis, Louis, the UK, we would say that's Louis. But Canadians, Americans, for people from the States, say Lewis. I don't even know if Lewis, that type of Lewis, is that a thing in Canada? I don't know. Here's one that I really struggle with. Okay, so when I'm in Vancouver, I go to a singing group, and there's one song that we sing that has the word water in it. Now, posh British people say water with a T. I'm not a posh British person, but sometimes my accent can go into posh. But I'm like from a place called Peterborough, which is not posh. And so if I was talking normally, I'd say water, without the T. But Canadians say water with a D, water. And that, like, for me, my tongue is like when I'm saying water. And so in the song goes, we all come from water and water. And it's so hard for me to sing that, because I want to say, we all come from water and water we shout, depending if I'm being posh or not. Water, water, and water, and water, and water, and water, and water we shall remain. So when I'm singing that in my song group, I'm like, water. It feels like I'm like, my tongue is drunk when it says water. And I'm probably doing a really bad, but that's what it sounds like to me. Water. Water. W-A-D-U-R. Water instead of water. Here's another word. Squirrel. You know, like the rats with the bushy tails in the trees? Canadians say squirr. No vowels in that at all. Squirr. There's no it's S-Q-R-R-R-R. So Brits say squirrel. Squirrel. And Canadians say squirr. Squirr. And so I remember like watching RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't even know if he's saying squirrel friend, or if he's saying, is it squirrel friend that RuPaul's saying, or is he saying, because he says squirrel friend. Squirrel friend. Is he saying squirrel friend, or is he saying something else, which is, sometimes, make up noises and stuff. I presume that, I've always thought he's just saying squirr friend, not squirrel, but maybe it is squirrel. I think it is squirrel. Now, here's another one. Now, this one grinds my gears. This grinds my gears because it's like a British word, and Canadians have stolen it, and they're doing it wrong, and it gets on my tits so fucking bad. But the swear word twat, Canadians pronounce it twat. This one gets on my tits. Like, the other one's like whatever, but this one gets on my tits. Now, he just makes this cool swear word, twat, and turns it into like just wrong and not cool anymore. They just twat. No, there's an A there. There's no O. And the other thing that Canadians get wrong, and people in the States, is on St. Patrick's Day. Now, because I'm half Irish, I can be mad about this too. They say, instead of Paddy, which is the shortened version of Patrick. I have an Uncle Paddy. Obviously, I'm Irish. I literally have an Uncle Paddy. My granddad was Paddy. I have a cousin Paddy. They're all Patrick. They instead of saying Paddy, not everyone, but a lot of people says Patty with T's. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's Paddy with T's, not Patty with T's. Here's another one. Okay, last one. This is a phrase. So the phrase is, I couldn't care less. So I couldn't care less. So even if I tried, I have nothing left to give of caring. There is nothing. I couldn't possibly care less. I hear, I could care less, meaning the same thing. I could care less about you doing that, but it's couldn't. It's couldn't. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I've been thinking about this. I'm like storing this up, being like, I need to tell someone. I need to tell someone. And my audience being international, some of you going to be like, no, Victoria, you're wrong, because it is water. No, you should be pronouncing it the posh way and say water, or whatever. We're all wrong. We're all right, but you know, obviously I'm right about it. All of them, yes. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Been watching those videos of pronunciations is just, you know, making me think about, you know, the funny ways that people say. One of my ex-boyfriends, oh my god, he had me crying laughing, saying how when he got to he's Canadian, he was Canadian, and he went to the UK, this is before me, and he got in the taxi in London, and he said, take me to Leicester Square. Leicester Square. And I was like, what? Leicester Square? And he meant Leicester. And the way that Leicester is spelled is Leicester. Leicester. So I can get it why he said Leicester. But the cabbie was laughing at him and I was laughing at him, saying like, no, you dingleberry, it's Leicester. But yeah. Some ways that I pronounce Canadian things, people have laughed at me being like, that's not how you say it. So I have been the dingleberry in lots of situations too. Anyway, what we're talking about today is what if your partner says they're no longer attracted to you, or never were. So we're talking about spouses and them confessing or telling you or whatever, about, you know, don't get fat because I won't be as attracted to you, or I prefer thin people or whatever. I have had this experience. My long-term boyfriend, who I was with for 6 years, told me after I'd maybe put on 15 pounds, so nothing, that he wasn't attracted to me anymore. So I actually made a video about this in 2018, and I wrote a blog post about this in 2017, and I'm going to read the blog post to you. It's a short one, and then we're going to have a little chinwag about it and dissect this, because a lot of people have this fear or have this issue. Okay, so this blog post, I'll link to it. Yeah, I'll link to it. I was like, actually, no, I'm not going to link to it because I'm going to read it to you, but I'll link to it in the show notes. Is why I was happy when my boyfriend told me he wasn't attracted to me. Dun, dun, dun. I always got the impression one of my partners just wasn't that into me. Let me rephrase, just not that into my looks. My suspicion was confirmed 4 years in when he told me that he didn't find me as attractive because I had put on a little weight. Walking in the park at winter, when he shamefully told me his secret, I assured him I would, quote unquote, become better. I would lose weight. The next week, I went on what would be my last diet. I vowed I would lose the weight the quote-unquote healthy way, and my partner would finally see me, see how wonderful I was, and think I was the most beautiful woman in the world. Of course, as all diets do, it failed. I put on more weight. I became resentful. Why couldn't he just love me the way I was? Why did he have to tell me something that was so devastating to me? I was filled with shame, anger, and confusion. Why am I now happy that he gave me this information? Why I am now happy that he gave me this information is that it led me on a path of self-discovery around beauty. 6 months after we split, I asked him, "Would you have liked me better if I was thinner?" Yes. This time his words didn't hurt. It didn't hurt because since I gave up on that last diet, I have learned all about fat positivity and feminism. I have learned about our patriarchal society and our beauty ideals, and beauty ideals hurt all of us. Why would a thin girlfriend be important to you? I continued. He explained that having a thin partner improves his status, that having a small girlfriend makes him feel more masculine. Like a lot of people, he has never explored our society's beauty ideals. We are constantly told that the most desirable are white, young, and thin. This belief will hurt him as he searches for a new partner. It will hurt him when he finds a new partner and she ages. It will hurt him if she ever puts on weight. It will hurt her too, as it hurt me, knowing that the man I adored would prefer a different version of me. Now I know it's not about me. It's a byproduct of living in a society that objectifies women. Men seeing their partner as a status symbol and women believing their worth is determined by the number on the scale, amongst other things. If I could travel back to that time in that icy cold park, I would have had such a different reaction. I wouldn't have seen my body as a problem, but the fact that my partner believed my worth was decreased as my weight increased. I would encourage my partner to explore his belief of what is desirable, and if he couldn't see the beauty of my quote-unquote waves and honey, then I would remove myself from the relationship. So if you're in the same situation as I was, know that it's not your fault. It's this fucked up beauty ideal. You deserve to be with someone who accepts you for who you are, and if they don't, leave them. By the way, my now ex is a wonderful, kind person. He didn't tell me about his feelings to be cruel, but to try and strengthen our relationship. It just didn't work out the way he planned. The end. So that is the post that I wrote about this topic, and I remember it so clearly, him saying those words. The park we're at, the lake was frozen. We were throwing stones onto the lake and making the ice break, and him saying this and me being absolutely stomach dropping through my body, sick, heart sinking, that feeling of my worst fears coming true. Like, this boyfriend, he was never kind of like, oh yeah, you're so sexy, you're so fit, and that kind of thing. And I was always like, I don't think he finds me that attractive. Now, I don't know if that was the case, but that was the case in that moment. And this incident, it was like 2 years before we broke up, and we didn't break up because of this, but obviously this didn't help. It was like a slow drip of him thinking that I wasn't good enough when hello, I clearly was. And him saying this to me, it was the last diet that I ever started. And this started me kind of getting into disordered eating again. And I remember saying to my therapist at the time, I need to confess to you about how much I eat. And I remember this because maybe a year ago, when I was writing my book, we together went through old notes of our past sessions so that I could put it into my book, because a lot of times when you work on things and it's in the past, you forget about it, right? And this is one thing that she brought up, and I was like, oh yes, confessing to her about saying I eat so much food. And she was like, well, what do you eat? And then I listed out what I would have in a day. And afterwards, a year ago, we were kind of laughing about it, not laughing at me, but kind of how now it seems so not ridiculous, but I was making a problem where there wasn't a problem, because I was like, I had a piece of dust after I hadn't eaten for 6 hours and I'm so greedy, and like at the time she wasn't like, listen up bitch, like you're allowed to eat more than just dust. But I just really thought that there was something wrong with me, and there wasn't. And I had put on weight because I was slowly starting to get away from diets, and this was kind of like me getting away from diets, me eating slightly a little bit more, and who else knows, but I hadn't even put on that much weight, really. I remember standing in the mirror naked in the bathroom with him, and looking at my hips, and there was a little change in the way that the shape of my hips, and I was like, oh, look at that, isn't that interesting? And kind of like, without judgment, observing a change in the shape of my body. And that was really cool that I was able to see like that non-judgmentally. But he in that moment was probably like, oh no, there's a change in the way that she's looking, and there's like an extra bulge, like a very slight thing. But this issue is a really big issue for people when they are on that journey of trying to love themselves, to trying to accept their big body, trying to stop dieting, that desperate fear of what weight gain will mean to their partner. Or has their partner always had a preference for someone in a smaller body? And this, or you just know that your partner would be happier if you were your current weight or thinner. They definitely don't want you to be bigger, and that sucks that it's such a big barrier. And what is happening here is that your partner is objectifying you. So the dictionary states what objectifying is degrade to the status of a mere object. So the reason why objectification is problematic is it makes you into a two-dimensional thing versus a human being with, a full and varied life and lots of things to give to your partner. And it would do things like isolate parts of your body, like isolate, just your tits or just your bum, or, I really like this, and, that single piece of you as being an object for your partner to consume, and not seeing you as a whole person. And so the reason why objectification is problematic is because it leads to the idea of possession. If you are an object, or if a part of your body is an object, then objects are owned. And so is your body no longer yours? Is it owned by your partner? And if you are an object, objects are treated differently from humans, right? It leads to mistreatment, and it leads to controlling behavior, and eventually it leads to violence, and eventually it leads to murder. Now, I'm not saying because your partner says, "Oh, I like skinny girls," that they're going to murder you. No, but this is kind of like the big scheme of things of why it's problematic. Remember in last week's episode, a common trait that the World Health Organization identified amongst domestic abusers was misogyny. And this is misogyny. So I want you to think of it if the tables were reversed. I cannot even imagine my partner putting on weight and me saying, this is a real problem for me. I don't like the fact that you've put on weight. I'm not attracted to you anymore. I cannot imagine saying to my partner, if their body changed, being like, "Ew, you're ugly now. You used to be so fit, but now you're disgusting." Like, it seems ridiculous to me. Like, that would not ever happen. I cannot imagine it. Maybe, 10 years ago when I didn't know better, if my partner's body changed, then, one, I would expect it because human bodies do not remain static. And two, I would just think, oh my God, why are you so cute and lovely? And it would just be lovely to be with someone throughout life, and as their body changes, as they get older, whatever happens to their body, it's like a strengthening of the relationship, that you can be with them through life. And life is your body changing. It is absolutely 100% unrealistic to expect any human body to not change, to not gain weight or lose weight or to age. What if you become pregnant? Your body's going to change. What if you have an accident? You're in an accident, your body could change. What if you get an illness? Your body could change. Your body could change for so many reasons. A lot of people are very nervous about getting pregnant because they are very concerned about how their partner will then perceive their body afterwards, like it's a broken body, like their body before was better. But your body has just created a fucking human being. Your body has just created an organ, your placenta. Like, just grew a fucking organ and a whole other human being. Like, holy shit, how amazing is that? And how amazing is it that your skin was able to organically grow and stretch, and there's stretch marks to show how cool your skin is, and that it was able to adapt to this massive change in your body. And to have to worry about that your partner's going to be like, your tummy's different. Your vagina's different. It makes me want to do a roundhouse kick to someone's face. So our society fetishizes thin bodies, yet hardly anyone thinks this is an issue. Let me repeat that because this is really important. Our society fetishizes thin bodies, yet hardly anyone thinks it's an issue. Now, fetishization is not inherently wrong when all parties are in agreement and the person doing the fetishizing sees you as a whole person, but we are fetishizing thin bodies where there is not consent. Do you consent to your partner fetishizing a body that you used to have? Do you consent to that? Is that okay with you? For me, it was non-consensual. I didn't consent to that. I do not consent to that. I do not consent to my partner fetishizing my current body to the point that if it changes, they no longer love me or love me differently. So on the flip side, you can have people who fetishize fat bodies. The level to fat fetishization to thin fetishization, that word is hard to say repeatedly, is like a billion to one, basically, because pretty much everyone fetishizes thin bodies. And it's a small portion that fetishize fat bodies. And people are like, oh, is it bad to fetishize fat bodies? Well, no, if the person who, if the dynamic, if there's consent there, then it's okay. If I was with someone and they just they were like, oh my God, the only thing I like about you is your fat belly or your fat tits or whatever it is, and then I happened to lose weight, and then they were like, gross, you're gross, then it's really clear to see how that is a problem. But when it comes down to the other way, we don't see it as a problem. We see it as, oh shit, well, I need to lose weight for my partner. If a partner says, I'm just not into fat girls, that's fat phobia. Our preferences are not made in a vacuum, right? Our preferences are not made in a vacuum. So do you want to be with someone whose love is dependent on what you look like, whose love and affection and sex and care is dependent on your body staying the same size? How sustainable is that in a relationship? How long can you guarantee that your body is going to stay the same? At what point is your body changed so much that your partner leaves? Do you want to get to that point where your partner is eventually like, oh, well, you've changed too much because, you're a human being and I can't handle being with a human being. How dare you get older, and how dare you, your skin change and this and whatever? Do you always want to be thinking, when is that day coming? When will my partner say, I no longer love and care for you in the same way because your body looks different? Is that something that you consent to? Is that something that you agree to? I personally, when I'm in a relationship, I don't love someone because of what their body looks like. What someone looks like, yes, it's a part of what draws me to them, and it's something that will give me pleasure. But does my love for them change because of what they look like? Am I, and even if you go to non-romantic love, do you love the people in your life, your parents or your friends or your siblings or whoever, because of what they look like? Well, no, of course not. Of course not. Well, why does romantic love have to be so dramatically different that it's based on, such a massive part of it is based on looks? Well, it doesn't have to be that your partnership is so heavily based on what you look like. And flip the script, like, would you be saying that to your partner? Do you have that same expectation of them for their body to never change? How does that sit with you? You might say, yes, I do have the expectation that my partner always has this same body. Well, is that something that is beneficial for you? Is that working for you? Is that something that makes you happy? What is going on there? Why do you want your partner to have the same body? Now, I think like most people listening to this podcast would just be like, well, no, obviously, no, I don't presume my partner to have the same body forever. Well, why can you not extend that? Why can't your partner extend that same grace to you? And revel in changes in your body, especially when changes in your body come from you working on your mental health, healing your relationship with food, getting to a place where you're more confident. Wouldn't that be an incredible and joyful thing? Wouldn't that be a wonderful achievement where you're able to say, I have let go of my disordered eating, my eating disorder, my mental health issue around this, and now my body is softer, and that is a trophy for how far I've come. Wouldn't you want a partner that celebrates that with you versus makes it into an issue when it's not an issue. So it's the person who is doing the non-consensual objectification and fetishizing to deprogram their brain. It's their job to see you as a whole person and not something that's put on earth for their enjoyment and for their sexual pleasure. They're the one who has work to do, not you. Because even if, say if diets did work, even if there was a reliable way for you to make your body smaller, and you could make your body smaller, do you want to be with someone who is thinking of you like that? I wouldn't want to be with someone who's thinking like that. So if I could go back to that moment when my ex said that he wasn't attracted to me anymore, I would literally be like, whoa, hello, dude, you need to work on your fat phobia, motherfucker. Don't you see what a fucking gorgeous person I am inside and out? Why is this hard for you to see me as a whole person? Why do you fetishize my body when it was smaller? And even, you know, in that article that I wrote 6 months after we broke up, and I said to him, would you have liked me better if I was thin? And he said, yes. That's so fucked up. Oh, that's fucked up. That we had a lovely relationship, and that in his mind the relationship would have been just that little bit better if I was thin or thinner. Is that the truth? Well, if he fetishizes thin bodies, that he does, then yes, he would have got a little bit more pleasure from fetishizing my thinner body if I had a thinner body. But that was not possible. What is possible was for him to work on his fat phobia, to work on his misogyny, to work on him objectifying his girlfriend. Like, that conversation could have gone him saying, I'm finding you less attractive, or I'm not attracted to you anymore, and I feel terrible about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a therapist, and I'm going to talk about it, because it's not okay for me to be objectifying you like that. I want to be with you forever, and your body's going to change, and my body's going to change, and I don't expect you to judge me if my body changes, and I am not going to judge you because your body has changed. I see the beautiful work that you're doing in stopping dieting and all that sort of stuff, and I've realized that I have work to do as well. So that would have been the beautiful outcome of that conversation. Or even if he had just not even told me that he was found me less attractive and just went to therapy and did the work on his own. Or, gone on to Reddit and like read some blog posts or whatever. He was always on Reddit. And it would just be, now that I am educated, it's just a totally different, conversation. It's a totally different reality. The reality before was, holy shit, I am disgusting. I have repelled the man that I love and adore and want to be with forever. I have repelled him and repulsed him so much that he's had to get up the courage to tell me that he is not attracted to me anymore. How hard is it for him to have to deal with that? That is what my brain is saying now. And saying then, but there was nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. And to an extent, it's not the person's fault to be fetishizing thin people, because we live in this society. But in this moment, if this ever happens to you, or has happened to you, when someone points out, hey, this is problematic and this is why it's problematic, you have work to do on your bigotry, then they're made aware that this is not okay. Then it is their issue to work on and not your issue. And you can't force someone to do the work, right? You're doing the work. You've done the work, you know. You are getting to a place where you're realizing, like, holy shit, fat phobia is fucked up. Oh, diets don't work, all that type of stuff. You're doing the work. You're in it. You're in the thick of it. And your partner is letting you down. And it's not okay. Now, in this situation, you could just go and try and lose weight. You could try and attract your partner in different ways and, I don't know, get a new hairstyle or whatever. I don't know. You could try and do those things. That might work out for you. You could have a difficult conversation with your partner and say, this is not acceptable. I think you need to work on this, you know, misogyny that you're obviously grappling with. You could just be like, see you later. I'm out of here. It depends on the length of the relationship and all that type of stuff. And it's hard, it's complicated, right? Like I said at the end of my blog post, generally speaking, my then boyfriend wasn't an asshole. He was a good guy. He was kind. He thought about others. He was a good partner to me on the whole. Obviously, there was things that weren't good. But he wasn't like he was this demon that was like, oh, I'm going to destroy her and I'm going to make her really sad by saying this thing. He was really struggling. And he thought that the solution was to tell me so that I would then lose weight. You know, and then as well, it wasn't just wrapped up in attraction, which, you know, that's how he presented. But I bet you deep down he was probably like, oh, does fatness mean that she is going to become unhealthy? Does fatness mean that we will no longer do the things that we enjoy doing together? Like, does this mean the beginning of the end? Does this mean that she will become very, very fat and these things happen? Basically, all of his, you know, basically fat phobia. But the way I'm guessing, but the way it was presented was, I'm not attracted to you. So if you're in that situation, it's complicated. You know, I don't presume that your partner's just a massive, you know, knob and just a dick and doing this to be mean. That could be the case, but you know, giving people the benefit of the doubt there. But it's not okay. It's not okay that anyone presumed that the way to fix this problem, which is based in bigotry, is for you to change your body, right? This is a common thing is, you know, when someone is a bully, say in the playground, there's a bully. The bully's picking on someone because they got big ears. You wouldn't say to the kid with the big ears, well, maybe you should have like surgery and get your ears pinned back. No, you would say to the bully, stop being a fucking bully. You know, what's wrong with you? What's going on here? But a lot of the times with fat people, we say, well, it might be a good idea for you to lose weight because then you won't get bullied. Versus saying to bully, what's wrong with you? Stop being a bully, you know? So we put it on the fat person to do the problem solving when really it is the bully or it is society or your partner or whatever to be the one to work out why they feeling like this or behaving like this or reacting like this. Is not our duty to change ourselves so that we are less of a target or victim. Whew. So, complicated one, hey? But, you know, in my mind, like now, you know, if I met someone, they were like, oh, you would just be so cute if you lost a little bit of weight. I would just be like, suck my fucking saggy tits, motherfucker. I'd be like, no, see you later. No, I would not fly with me. But as you know, I am starting to date. Well, last time I told you that I was starting on Tinder. And yeah, well, I've given up on it. I can't be bothered. These like one word conversations, I'm just like, yeah, you know, Cool. I just can't. I can't be bothered. I don't know. Is this the reality for everyone? I just keep thinking, I'm gonna give it another go. And then I'm just like, oh, I can't be bothered. And then so now I'm like, I'm just gonna wait until I get back in Vancouver, and then when I'm in Vancouver, then it will be different or better. I don't know. Maybe then when I'm in Vancouver, I'll just be like, if the conversation is not really going anywhere, I'll be like, let's just jump on the phone and have a chat, or let's just go on a date or something, because I don't like to write people off with the way because of the way that they communicate on the internet to a stranger, because everyone has different communication styles. Sometimes people are better in person. Sometimes people are better when they've got to know someone. And so I always want to give someone the benefit of the doubt when it comes to communication. Now, the content of their communication, like if they're just like, yo, big tit bitch or whatever, then I'll be like, nah. I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt there. You're clearly a creep. Unless I asked him to call me a big tit bitch or whatever. But I always try to. And then say if I go on a date with someone on the first date, they seem nice, but they're a little bit shy, I will always, again, give them the benefit of the doubt, as long as they're not creepy or anything. Because I tend to, like, I'm an extrovert. I tend to romantic partners get on with introverts better. Even though, like, in my mind, I'm like, no, give me another extrovert. Really, if I'm faced with a guy who's also an extrovert, I'm just like, ugh, who is this guy? Why won't he let me talk? So I tend to do better with introverts as romantic partners. So we'll see. So if I get on better with introverts, I have to try and not saying that introverts are shy, but yeah. Anyway, I've done my pandemic hair part 2. Remember, I did my pandemic hair where I kind of shaved the sides of my head. Well, I have now bleached my hair. And because I shared a video on Instagram with this guy bleaching his hair is exactly the same cut as mine. And it was the same, like, dark, kind of, my hair is naturally kind of brown. And he bleached it and it looked so fucking good. And so I said, shall I do this? And Instagram told me yes. So I bleached it. Now the tips of my hair were properly bleached because I bleached it at the tips a couple of times. So I was bleaching my roots. And so I bleached my roots and they kind of went a little bit not gingery, but they're very brassy. And so then the next day I put in grey, and so now the tips are kind of like purpley bluey, and the roots are kind of, I don't even know what color it is, like blonde. I don't know. You can see on YouTube. I put a video of me recording the podcast on YouTube. So if you ever want to see what I look like when I'm recording, you can do that. You can look. You don't have to, but I'm gonna see my hair, see what's going on my hair. Yeah. So I might now put in a little bit of pink on the roots. A hairdresser friend said, why don't you try that? So I might do that. Good thing is, being in isolation, if it fucks up, then who's going to see it? Apart from, all you lot, and Instagram and people in the shop. Really, I really don't care. I don't care. And the good thing as well about having really short hair is if it fucks up like really bad, like if I damage my hair, then I can just shave it off. So one time, actually, when I very first shaved my head, and it was probably a centimetre long, and then I bleached it, and I bleached it, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to dye it purple. So I got this purple from the store, and I put this purple on my head, and of course it goes straight onto my scalp because my hair is so short. And I started noticing, like, it looks like it's staining my skin, and it says keep in for, I don't know, I think it was like 50 minutes. It said keep in your hair for 50 minutes. And then after like 10 minutes, I looked, and my whole scalp was stained purple, deep, dark purple. And I hadn't like cleaned around my head properly, and so it was all on my ears. It was like dripping down on my face, like stained. And when I say stained, I like rinsed this motherfucker out, and then I got like scouring brushes. I got like, I went on Instagram. I was like, help, what the hell do I do? And people were like, try this, try that. I was putting everything in my hair, like oil and washing up liquid, and then I buzzed the rest of my hair off, thinking that might help. But then it made it even worse, because then I was like completely bald with a stained scalp. Like it looked like I was wearing, I don't know, a hat of purple drip over my head. And that night I had to go out, and I think it was I could wear a hat because it was like January or whatever. And eventually someone said try bleaching it again, and so I had to bleach basically my skin, like a millimeter of hair, and it got out. But oh my god, my head was just raw. It was so bad. So anyway, I'm telling you this horror story, but if that happened now, then whatever. It's just hair, right? And hey, me shaving my head, a big part of that was my ex was always like, I prefer when girls have long hair. And so I always had it in the back of my head, like, short hair is not attractive, which is bullshit. So a little bit part of me shaving my head was kind of like a fuck you to my ex, of like, huh, yeah, don't like short hair? Well, suck my fucking tits. I've got short hair now. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I feel good. I feel happy now. I was feeling a bit more before. Now I feel happy, so thank you. And hopefully this has made you feel a little bit, I don't know if you'd feel happy about me being like, oh, people are fat phobic. But anyway. Okay, well, I will see you on the next episode of the Fierce Fatty podcast. Hey, if you want to go to the show notes, or as always, you can go to, I don't think I've ever told you this, so not as always, but you can go to fiercefatty.com/podcast to get all of the episodes, or for this specific episode show notes, where the only thing that's going to be there is the link to that article, which is fiercefatty.com/030 for episode 30. Also on there in the show notes is a thing where you could submit a anonymous question if you want to, and links for other things. So it's not just that link. I lied to you. And hey, why not message me and tell me weird things that British people say, or Canadians say, or people from the US of A say, that I've missed out on my list of Greg, Craig, Graham, Graham, water. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you later, fatty. Okay, in a while, alligator. Goodbye.